on the bottom again.
RAIOLA MANIA is back. Huskers live right here, the voice of college football, breaking down Nebraska football with all of you. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. Consider contribution here, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, or on the Super Chat as well. We'll take your comments and questions. Greg Peterson right next to me, Husker Online. And we got Justin Adams, Cheesy Corn Sports. It's right here on YouTube. Check it out.
Yes, sir.
And this is a great time to do it with the NFL getting toward postseason play, fantasy, information, insight, tips, all of that from Justin and the guys there at Cheesy Corn Sports. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good. Excited. Winning the offseason again. That's what we're heading for.
Greg, I told you before we started to record tonight, I said, I remember back when we were talking RAIOLA every week, because that was a hot topic. And of course, he had decommitted from Ohio State and he was showing up on campus a lot at Nebraska. And then he finally made that flip to Georgia. You said, hey, it's the long game. Got to play the long game. Nebraska's going to play the long game. Don't count them totally out. This isn't good news, but you never know. It may come back around.
Well, yeah, and all of a sudden, Monday night blew up the state of Nebraska and the college football world. Uncle Donnie even got a 50% bump in his salary yesterday, and all of a sudden, Dylan RAIOLA was like done with Georgia, and while you have McCord on campus doing a visit. I mean, it's just crazy what's been going on here. But yeah, I mean, Dylan RAIOLA, with all of his ties to this program and his family, and and now we know that there's an official visit coming on Friday, which he isn't early enrollee, so he doesn't have a lot of time to pick a new school. And I think it'll be his 6th official visit here. So, all of a sudden, Nebraska has captured the whole college football world in the last 48 hours or so, with Matt Rule going on the Pat McAfee show for 45 minutes today, and you got the possibility of bringing in 2 5-star quarterbacks into your quarterback room, which was probably the worst quarterback room in the Power 5, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, wow, what a difference a day makes. Around here, it's just people are just going crazy, and we're not really following those flight trackers, even though Tyler McCord is on his way to Syracuse right now, which is also kind of strange that that's another Matt Rule coaching staff there, with 3 of their main coaches all former Matt Rule disciples. So, we'll see. And, you still have Daniel Kalen in the mix as a quarterback commit. So, yeah, there's lots of things in motion right now, and kind of hard to keep track of until something else comes out officially.
Greg, you just lowered the boom on this quarterback room. So I thought that I was fairly hard on the quarterback room when you guys would, make certain comments that, okay, well, they're able to do this and Harburg's able to do this, and this is where their skill set is. And I'd be like, oh my goodness, this quarterback situation's a mess. And not that you guys ever argued that point, but I always thought that Greg massaged it a little bit, and then boom, he comes down with the hammer tonight. Worst quarterback room in the Power 5.
It probably was, though, if you look at it. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you the truth.
It's not a huge stretch.
No. I mean, you turn the ball over 31 times.
Yeah.
And
you don't even throw it that much.
Exactly.
No, you're running it all the time. And, now all of a sudden you're going to get 2 guys supposedly former 5-star. I mean, a 5-star and a former 5-star that are pocket passing quarterbacks. So you're completely changing around what you were doing last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, the nice thing is, too, that, you did clear out a spot there when Jeff Sims decided to jump into the transfer portal. I guess that's probably better than getting fired, right? But, that helps out in numbers wise because you're still dedicated to Daniel Kalen as an incoming fresh quarterback too. That was really, he was really, really vital in putting together this Nebraska recruiting class. Because after the first go around with RAIOLA, when he committed to Georgia back in May, they flipped Daniel Kalen right away, who was already committed to Missouri at the time. And, a kid in Daniel Kalen that, he's grown up a Husker fan and always dreamed of being a Husker quarterback. And now you're like all of a sudden the third guy coming in this class. But he's still going to have a scholarship here and be able to compete. But it's a hard situation for him is all I'm trying to say with what's gone down here. And, Husker Nation right now is just – they're so thrilled about what's been going on.
Wild.
Yeah, since the news dropped last night. It's just crazy.
We're all losing sleep over it. Yeah, kind of like Greg said. Like
and
it
plus,
was.
And plus.
What happened? Oh, sorry, he cut out for a second. No, what I was going to say is last night.
Wait.
Gotcha. Steve Wilfong posted that crystal ball last night at 6 p.m. He's the director of 24/7 recruiting, and so he's a 98% success rate. So that right there was everybody's cue. Like, okay, this is legitimate. And then a couple hours later,
you're right. You're 100% right. Yep.
Yeah, and a couple hours later, earlier today, actually, Kip Adams, an insider for Georgia, Brian Munson put one from On3 yesterday. Chad Simmons, the director of On3, director of recruiting at On3, put one in. Sean Callahan put one in this morning. Like, these were rapid fire in succession. And the thing that was uncommon to me is, all this buzz is coming in, all these crystal balls are coming in for RAIOLA, and they're coming in for McCord still at the same time. Last night, there were still crystal balls coming in for McCord that were almost lost, in the news of the RAIOLA stuff. So, like he said, it's just very, very, it's a weird situation to be able to bring in 5-star recruits after that, and having Julian Fleming on campus Tuesday. Daniel Kalen, on him, they did say that they were going to still honor his commitment. So it'll be up to him whether, he stays or goes. Like Greg said, he was kind of the savior of the class. Once RAIOLA committed, we immediately pulled him over from Mizzou. So you would like to see, him be able to come and compete or something. But if he leaves, I understand. The thing that I see people talking about the most with Kyle McCord is fit and stuff like that. And we can get into McCord a little bit later. And Greg talked about the offense this year and how it doesn't necessarily fit what our offense was doing this year, but it fits what Marcus Satterfield likes to do. When he was at South Carolina, they passed a ton. I think they had the third most passing yards in school history, fourth most points, sixth most total yards. When he was at Carolina, they had 4,100 passing yards, 1,700 rushing yards. His tight ends significantly contributed at Baylor. They had more than 250 yards per game, over 165 yards rushing per game. So that's something that he likes to do. He likes to do power run, but he also likes to set up the deep ball. And McCord last year had 6 touchdowns and no interceptions on the deep ball. So I think there's a little bit to what, the staff is trying to do by getting him. And it might be an indication of what, to expect going forward. Because again, RAIOLA, great touch on his deep ball. Didn't have, the season that he wanted at Buford, but Buford's a step up in competition to Chandler where he was in Arizona, and he threw for 34 touchdowns and 1 interception. So I think these two fit what he wants to do. It's get a power run game going, huddle up, get big, and also try to stretch the field with the deep pass. So fit wise, I think that's much ado about nothing, but yeah, RAIOLA is supposed to be on Georgia's campus, was supposed to be an early enrollee this weekend. He was set to participate in the Sugar Bowl practices, and something happened. I don't know what happened there, but
It's an NIL deal.
Yeah, I've heard something in NIL, and that brings me back to Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart has never, to me, he seems to have a Dabo approach to the
because
portal.
it was because there was a movement in the quarterback room that they didn't realize it was going to happen.
Well, they have a 26
NIL money switched.
Yeah, they have a 2026 5-star, and then they have the Puget.
They have every 5-star they want. Just put it that way.
Yeah, and so.
But now you got a guy with bloodlines saying, "Okay, well, I can still get the same money that I want here, where my dad was a star." And
imagine more.
Oh yeah, absolutely more. I mean, his dad didn't get anything when he played here.
but I
mean, it fits. It just makes it the perfect scenario. You bring in McCord for 1 year because he's a 1-year guy, and you let RAIOLA sit behind him and gain knowledge and play in 4 games. Obviously, he will play in 4 games, and if he takes a red shirt, but I mean, it's like the perfect scenario that Nebraska could ever even ask for. Is the way things have gone down.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing to watch with Daniel Kaelin was a huge peer recruiter this year. He was one of the bigger guys in trying to get, Carter Nelson to campus and stuff like that. So just like RAIOLA was in Georgia, RAIOLA was a peer recruiter over in Georgia. They also lost an offensive line recruit yesterday. But yeah, Kirby Smart, again, like I was saying, Kirby Smart he's one of those guys. He's like, I want you to come in and earn your money versus me just paying you to come in. And Georgia fans have mentioned that in the past. I've heard many Georgia fans mention how that's kind of been on their radar as an issue and could be an issue as the NIL valuations and money goes up. I know Kyle McCord's NIL valuation on On3 was like $730K. I've heard rumors of the money for RAIOLA, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, it's interesting to see if anything's going to come out about what happened there, because just when he's set to go to campus, set to enroll, and then I don't know if it was a promise that was made that wasn't kept, or it could be any number of things. I'm not here to speculate, but it'll be interesting to see how the rest of it plays out, because there's a lot of people knocking his commitment issues, and I don't necessarily think that's. I know he has moved around a lot, but there's a lot of pressure in today's collegiate landscape with NIL and stuff like that, and expectations are high. And at Georgia, you go to Georgia and you're one of the blue chip guys there, and you win championship expectations are there every year. Nebraska, you can come in and you can improve Nebraska to bowl game 7, 8, 9 wins, and your stars to the moon, right? So it's risk versus reward. There's a higher floor at Georgia, lower floor at Nebraska, but I believe a higher ceiling as far as if he takes them over the hump finally. So
yeah, in terms of Kyle McCord, here's my deal on Kyle McCord. I don't have much to say about Dylan RAIOLA. He's obviously been evaluated as a 5-star. He's got all the talent in the world. I've got nothing to add to that. I've never seen him throw a pass in my life, and don't need to. And I will, and I will at some point, of course, but I just don't watch high school football, and I don't watch huddle tapes unless somebody specifically wants me to watch something. But when it comes to Kyle McCord, I told Ohio State fans this week, I said, knowing Nebraska fans and knowing what this program has been for the past 5 years, for the past 10 years, for the past 15 years, but especially the last 5,
20.
they will welcome Kyle McCord with open arms. While I've never seen a quarterback who led an 11-1 football team that came within 6 points of going undefeated. And I know he missed throws. I know he didn't play perfect. I know that he's not CJ Stroud. I know all those things, but it's a bit ridiculous. He's a good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback.
Yep.
He's not Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, but he's really good.
He threw for 24 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. Don't you think that Nebraska fans would welcome that with open arms?
He's good.
Well, not only that, just looking at his efficiency, Nebraska's QB room last year was ranked 104th in total passing efficiency, 110th in third down percentage, and 128th in red zone percentage. Kyle McCord last year, 13th nationally in efficiency, 46% on third down conversions, which was second in the Big Ten and 19th in the nation. So he fits a lot of what Nebraska struggled with last year. He didn't turn the ball over a ton, little inconsistency on his passing, not great under pressure, similar numbers under pressure to Nebraska's QB room this past year, or Heinrich Haarberg, sorry. But the other numbers, like I said, the deep ball, which is what Satterfield wants to go to last year, on our deep ball, that was 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions versus him 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, so I think he just fits a lot of what we struggled with last year. And it makes a lot of sense if you look at kind of the numbers a little more in detail. And because what is exactly fit? When people talk about fit, I think it's improving what you were bad at last year. And then he's going to do that.
Hey, 6 interceptions too, in my point, is like most teams are going to have that. Mm-hmm. He just wasn't fumbling the ball all over the place, which is definitely an upgrade in my mind for anybody that you're going to bring in here to compete for the job.
Yeah, Nebraska had 17 fumbles by the QBs last year.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
More fumbles than interceptions.
But you got a guy that's very, obviously he's an accurate passer, and he knows how to win games, and that's exactly what you want, especially for a guy like I mentioned earlier. He's a 1-year guy, right? And a former 5-star recruit, and then you got your claws on a 5-star recruit for this recruiting cycle as well to learn under him, and not have to throw out in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a perfect scenario right now for all Nebraska fans of what's going on right now. And I really can't fathom that McCord's trip to Syracuse is going to make him think he wants to go to Syracuse instead of Nebraska.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially you got a chance to play against your former team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and tell them that, give them that old fist pump.
Yep. And another impact that, guys like this committing would have on the program is, offensive players, of course, see that, future recruits will see that Dylan RAIOLA, the number 1 quarterback in the class, is coming to Nebraska, and they're going to want to come there. And Kyle McCord, you already seen it with Kyle McCord, Julian Fleming on campus today. Got a crystal ball today for Nebraska. So, the ball's rolling the right direction there. So, that's a prime example of it when they can lure these guys over. And like I said, RAIOLA was a huge peer recruiter at Georgia. He'll probably do the same at Nebraska, and that's going to be huge for our 25, 26 classes as well.
And Justin, I'm figuring you probably did see the video already of Isaac Gifford and Bryce Benhart, coming back.
That was a funny video. That was cool.
The running joke right now is it's going to be Fleming and McCord doing one.
Oh, really?
Here this weekend, yeah.
That would be awesome. That was a well done video, though. I like that announcement. It was all in the middle of the chaos too.
Yeah, no, it was perfect.
Yep,
really perfect timing, I thought.
They knew everybody. They knew all the Husker fans had their eyes on Twitter. So yeah,
really
smart for sure.
which is big, Mark. I'm assuming you didn't know that you have two guys that could have left for the NFL that decided to come back.
I shot him a text last night.
I was going to say, I only knew because one of our guys right here, Justin, let me know. Otherwise, I did not see it, or probably would not have seen it. But yeah, that's huge. That is enormous.
With Isaac Gifford coming back, you got 8 starters back on that defense. So it was ranked in the country. And, a starting right tackle is a big thing to get back to. So, that offensive line has another year to grow with each other and work together, obviously you see their coach already got rewarded for doing a good job with these guys over the last 2 years. So just great news all around for Nebraska football right now. It's crazy. And, you got next Wednesday is signing day. So, it's just, I think there's more going on right now than during the season.
Yep. And to your point about the raise for RAIOLA, a lot of people are speculating that was because of the Dillon news, but that's completely taken away from what RAIOLA did this year with that offensive line and the improvements he made. I think that was based strictly on his work, what he did with the team this year. Again, he got Grant Bricks into the next year's class. He had a 5-star Brandon Baker on campus, so he's doing a lot of good. It's more than just him being, people have it stuck in their mind that he's there to recruit Dillon. That's not the case. He's a good coach.
He's legit offensive line coach.
Yep.
And I've seen him up close and in person doing his job. And he is always very, very impressive.
And Greg, I don't know if you know more about the QB coaches on campus. I know they said I saw that they had RAIOLA's QB coach, who I believe also works with Patrick Mahomes, and then I also saw they might have had McCord's QB coach there. So maybe something's in the works to potentially be getting a QB coach. Pete's is the name being thrown around. I just wasn't sure if you had any other ideas of names.
No, I mean that's the front runner right now. Because we've heard Matt Rule already say that he wanted to get back to his original plan, and get Coach Satterfield. Will still be the coordinator, but originally he was supposed to be a tight ends coach.
Yeah,
but I mean things didn't work out last year during the hiring process, and obviously, your tight end coach had issues and had to be let go early on, and just never had a chance to get that quarterback coach to kind of make your dream come true about your staff. So I mean obviously the names that you just throwing around there are the front runners for sure. Especially if you're getting depending on what service you look at, number one quarterback prospect in the country coming in, you probably want the guy that he's been working with.
Exactly.
So
that was the other thing too. Do they want to go that route? Because obviously good at what he does, but Pete's
somebody that's followed him around too. I mean, obviously, like we talked about, the RAIOLAs moved to Georgia from Arizona just to be close, because he was early enrollee at Georgia, and
Buford's right there.
To have him, he played for 3 different high schools. Yeah, he played for 3 different high schools in 3 years of his high school career. So I mean, that's a little bit, I don't know. I don't know how to really explain that, but no. I've covered games at Buford. It's a really fun place to see a high school football game at, and Nebraska's had several players out of that high school. So, I don't really classify Dylan RAIOLA as a Buford, Georgia kid, but I guess that would be on the paperwork, right? When he signs on Wednesday.
And at Buford, he like I said, he did have a 34 touchdowns and 1 interception is nothing to scoff at. But considered to what he, did in Arizona, it wasn't the same, but it also is a huge step up in competition, which is only going to help him.
Yeah, it's definitely completely different than playing West Coast talent.
Exactly.
Down in the Southeast, that back in my old stomping country.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you go to a game, say you go to Atlanta and go see Stevenson play. There's probably 50 D1 offer kids on the field at the same time.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Yep.
You're not gonna find that in the Phoenix area.
Not at all. No.
You're not gonna find it in Nebraska. I mean, you're not gonna. There's a lot of places that you're not gonna find that at. But
Yep.
yeah, no, it is definitely a hotbed of high school talent.
Yep.
Down there in that Atlanta area.
And the fact that he went and competed there I think it's gonna pay dividends for him. So that step up in competition.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just the fact that, he kind of has an understanding and the patience to, potentially come in and sit for a year under McCord. I think that says a lot about, the relationship that Rule built with him. Rule never, lost contact with him. He's been kind of, in touch with him nonstop, kind of like Greg said, they're playing the long game, but I think that's a testament to what Rule does. And he really builds these true relationships. And, you can see it by how little players have entered the portal, and none of them really have been hugely impactful players to the team. So I think all of this is just a good sign in the big picture for what Rule is able to do differently in the recruiting front versus what we had in the past.
Yeah. I mean, you got what, 4, 5 guys in the transfer portal leaving?
Yeah. Yep.
Tavon Lynham's probably the biggest name on there, but
exactly.
He wasn't going to be a starter, so he moved on. He's already signed with Pitt as of today. So I mean, yeah, you don't really. I mean, Jake Applegate, like we talked about last week, is not a huge loss. Nobody that has gotten in the portal has been, any kind of a loss, really, when you think about it. It just helps your own numbers. So I mean, especially when now all of a sudden you got 5 stars wanting to come here at the end of the cycle. So I mean, you got to clear out room somewhere, right?
Yeah, and that's the hard part is like we've talked about before, we're well over on room, right? 85 spots available. We're, probably around the 95, 96-ish.
It's growing every day, bro. Seriously.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, there's actually smoke about ETN from and Princely.
It was denied today. ETN.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen both, but okay, cool. I thought that was a long shot.
One of the big on 3 national guys put the kibosh on that.
Gotcha. And then what about Princely?
Princely is a big time get.
Princewell's brother, yeah.
Yeah. Unmunlin, Princewell Unmunlin's brother, Princely. He's the top pass rusher in the transfer portal right now.
Yep. He forwent the NFL draft.
Like his little brother. And no, that's one we haven't touched on that, if you ask me right now, I'm 95% sure he's coming here. So,
yep. And he's an NFL talent, and he forwent the NFL draft to come back to school. So he would be a massive get for like Greg said, and we have 8 players returning on an already top, 20 defense, and then potentially adding, stars to that, plus stars on the opposite side of the ball, and all this coming out. This might be the greatest couple days so far in Husker recruiting history.
You can't say that any better, Justin.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Who needs a bowl game when you have Nebraska off seasons? We always win off seasons. We lose games. Let's stay in the off season.
These great off seasons eventually have to lead to bowl games, though.
Well, usually we're drinking too much Kool-Aid about the 3-4 stars. Now at least we got some 5 stars. So I'm back on the Kool-Aid.
I have never had to make a graphic for a 5-star guy commit to Nebraska in my career. So I have to make a new one now.
And then
Am I allowed to spoil the party just a little bit?
Oh, why would you do that?
Just a little bit?
You
Am I
No.
allowed?
We had to deal with this season. You want to spoil our party?
So, bone-led corn-fed, we love you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here. We will be in the playoffs in 24 if we get
Oh
both.
no, I don't
I
think
guess
so.
he's referring to McCord and RAIOLA.
No, they both can't contribute.
Calm down.
We're running 2 QB sets with both of them out there.
It's more than a 1-year project there, Bonehead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, Matt Rule takes steps up in year 2, but not that big of a step.
Yeah.
These teams do significantly better in year 2, but playoff is a few years out at best still.
Oh yeah.
So.
And you can't even go for the Big West or Big Ten West title either anymore.
No, but this does, it's one of those things too. The timing of this is huge because, Nebraska can't really get lost in the arms race of this new Big Ten. It's going to be good luck getting out of that.
The 4 teams that are coming in here with powerhouse programs. I mean, it's it's the time to shine now for, you're one of the blue bloods still of college football, even though it's starting to dwindle a little bit.
Yeah.
But now
a little bit.
Yeah.
Still blue blood.
Hey, still in the 900 win club.
That's right.
Okay?
Still top 10 wins.
Yeah. So, hanging on. But now you bring in 4 teams that are traditional powers as well into your conference, and you can't go run and hide anymore. You got to start winning games against these teams that you should be beating year in and year out.
Exactly. Yep. And it's with our schedule, the gauntlet we have to run at the end of next year with our schedule. It couldn't come at a better time because, with that schedule, the potential for only 5 wins is there. As it's set with our quarterback room the way it was, now I think 8 or 9 wins is realistically on the table. Because, I mean, we lost by 3 points. Oh, Greg, you all right?
Yeah.
I need to check on him. Oh, okay.
Went down.
You all right? You need to step off for a minute.
But anyways, that's just it's what is it? Oh, sorry. I thought he's trying to say something. I'm just making sure he's all right up there. I'm actually worried. But anyways, this is one of those things that like this move going into next year, if we can win 7, 8, 9 wins with that schedule, versus the 5 wins with this schedule, even more so impressive because next year's schedule is significantly harder. And then, you start putting on performances against the USCs, the UCLAs, those teams that are also big names. And that's what we're going to need. We played a lot of, Big Ten, we had a lot of Illinois, Michigan States and stuff like that, but having the USCs, UCLAs and all that's an opportunity to kind of catch a lightning in a bottle next year and really throw Nebraska onto the national, spotlight again. Because everybody's talking about him right now. JD Piquel from On 3 made a joke of it when he makes the post of the actual commitment, he's going to break Twitter because probably will. I think last I looked, the Wilt Fong tweet for the first crystal ball switch, 2.2 million views. Wow. Wild.
Yeah, it's been such a big week that we are about 35 minutes into our show. And normally Julian Fleming would have been the big headline news that we would have talked about first and foremost. And here we are 35 minutes into it. And we're finally getting to Julian Fleming, who was the number 1 wide receiver in his class. That might be coming with Kyle McCord.
Yep.
Actually, I did mention him earlier when, thinking that him and McCord are going to do a commitment video together, like inside Memorial Stadium or something this Saturday.
So. Yeah. He was on campus today, and he fits a lot of what they want. in that offense. He's got the frame, he's got the body, he runs a 4.63. So I mean,
And
he's a good,
experience.
yeah, he's a good all around. And a lot of Ohio State fans are talking about, well, he didn't fit in here. He wasn't good here. He's not going to be good there. LSU fans said the same thing about Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer is a 5-star recruit, lost in a receiver room that was stacked. And he was relegated to special teams, kick returner, punt returner, only had 200-something yards that season at LSU, transferred to Nebraska, became a draft pick in the NFL, and he's producing for Tampa now. It's not the fact that they don't have the talent. It's when you're in a room of Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka, players like that, it's hard to stand out. And when you come to a school like Nebraska and you have camaraderie with a guy like McCord, that is going to work well in his favor. I think is a smart move by him if he does end up committing. But yeah, I think it's very likely we'll also land him, and he's going to be just as important. He's kind of getting lost in the thing, but he's a 94 rated transfer and was like a 98 rated recruit. So he's going to transform that wide receiver room. Having Malachi to learn from him. Malachi is a big body dude. Malachi is a second wide receiver. It's going to be exciting. We got a mixture of older and younger guys now, especially in the wide receiver room. We lost Marcus Washington, who was our kind of leader in that room. So it'll be nice to kind of have a veteran presence in there too.
No, he definitely fits what they want, and I think it's pretty much going to be a package deal. He's not going to come if McCord doesn't come.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, too, I think Nebraska needs to go out and get two of those receivers out there in the portal that have experience to help out with a very young group of guys that are coming back. And, hopefully you do have Marcus Washington get granted, his medical hardship case and be back again too, to be, fill one of those roles as a mentor. But Matt Rule's not a dummy. He knows where his deficiencies are, and he's attacking that right now while he has a chance. So,
yep.
I mean, you have a pretty talented group of young guys, but they're just not battle proven yet. You mentioned Malachi, but Jalen Lloyd kind of overshadowed Malachi Coleman for his performance on the field.
Yeah, with the deep balls.
Two guys together, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously we know that Matt Rule wants to go after track guys that can run past you. And those guys fit the mold. And now you add in some more seasoned talent in there to help along. And that's what you have to do right now.
Yep.
And I know it's really early to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because we still have the rest of the transfer portal for the next, 2 to 3 weeks. And then we've got a transfer portal session after spring practice. And we know what happens there. Guys get their evaluation after spring and they see where they stand and then they bolt. But the way things stand right now, let's say Julian Fleming comes to Nebraska. Do we have a pretty good idea what that wide receiver pecking order would look like? Or is there just a ton of competition there?
I mean, if you get Julian Fleming, I think obviously, you kind of vault him into the number one spot. And like I mentioned, I think they're looking for another one at that caliber. But, I mean, going down the tree, I mean, Malachi Coleman, Jalen Lloyd, who am I looking at next?
If Marcus Washington gets his waiver cleared, I think he would automatically become like the wide receiver 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Bolt, though, would be in there, and you still got a bunch of other guys coming along.
Yep.
That you didn't get a chance to see much of this year. But there's a lot of young bodies there. So, I mean, that'd be your top pecking order right there.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a little bit, you know, of between the young guys, you know, they're going to make them compete for it. Jalen Lloyd, I think, and Malachi Coleman do two different things. So I think they'll both be a perfect fit. Jalen Lloyd, you know, deep ball, Malachi, bigger body. And, you know, Satterfield talks about his positionless offense. So it'll also be interesting to see how he uses all of these guys. You know, he's used tight ends at tailback before. So, you know, it'll be interesting, really interesting to see how he unlocks the offense now that we're getting some of these weapons and stuff like that. And, you know, he probably will use guys like, you know, Malachi to set up guys like Jalen Lloyd. It's going to be a little bit more of that low high offense, that using the power run game to set up the deep ball. We're going to see more of that this year, because last year, or this past year, it was run the ball to set up no passing. So yeah, like he said, I think we should target another one, especially because Marcus Washington is no sure thing, but we need kind of another veteran in that locker room as well. Julian Fleming has had some injuries throughout his careers, so it'll be really interesting to see. But I don't know if many people have had the time to think about it with our heads spinning here these last 2 days about who we go after.
Plus, I mean, you know, you got a pair of 4-stars coming in from Bellevue West too.
Yeah.
You know, with Devon Hall and Isaiah McMorris.
Yep.
They're both track guys too. So I mean, you know, you're still adding. You got a lot of talent coming in. You know that. You know, people make such a big deal about rankings and stuff, and you know, you got 2 high 4-stars coming in from in-state. So,
yep.
You know, I don't dislike that wide receiver room whatsoever, even if you don't get Julian Fleming. I just would like to see some more leadership there to help out these young guys, which would be key to getting a guy like Fleming. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yep. And as we found out last year, you know, the injury bug can bite hard. So you can never have too many in that room. So.
And plus, he's not on that flight to Syracuse with McCord either. So.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. He didn't fly out there with him. So if it's a package deal, they ain't getting the package. So Fleming was like, heck no, I'm good on that.
It's cold there.
And for those who haven't seen the 1890 initiative, the NIL thing that Nebraska is doing, they posted on their Twitter a video of kind of their office and what they're running there. Matt Davidson, the president, stuff like that. That's rolling, and they dropped that video yesterday. Perfect timing. You know, they had the one of the directors of recruiting at, you know, Nebraska right now. She tweeted something yesterday, and then, you know, you had all the players tweeting out different things, you know, and so all of this stuff is coming at a perfect time. We had 2024 recruits tweeting, you know, the eyeball emojis and stuff like that after all the news has come about RAIOLA, like they know something. So that's the type of things you like to see, is just this unit of an organization, you know, between the NIL, you know, the fans are getting involved in the NIL, the donors, you know, they have incentives, and then the players, the recruits and everything are just rallied around this university and the team like I haven't seen before. So yeah, it's just what we saw yesterday is deeper than just the RAIOLA and McCord news. It seems like a changing of the guard, and going into Rule's second year, that's what we expected, I believe.
Well, what this is, Justin, is Matt Rule calling out the 1890 collective 2 weeks ago. His press conference.
They weren't doing enough.
It's still getting played over and over when he talked about the price of a quarterback.
Yep.
And now it's their time to step up and pony up. And I think that was a message 2 weeks ago to them.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden you have an opportunity to not just spend that kind of money on one quarterback, but 2.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. So you got to sell a lot more burrito combo meals from Migos and Runza combos, and Valentino's pizzas, get these kids paid.
Yep.
And it's been a call to arms for them, really.
For
and
sure.
now they know it's time. Which I think, I don't know if Coach Rule planned that or not, but he put that question out there, and now you see the return on that.
Exactly. Yeah. And about the rule with the NIL, he's a very good system in place. On the Pat McAfee show today, he was really talking. He mentioned a comment about like having the contract in hand. He's like, I don't do that until the contract's in hand. And so he's very, very methodical with this. And I believe he's taking the time to, dot the I's, cross the T's, and make sure that the money is there. And like they have something in writing saying, and check with the person and say like, hey, do you, does all this check out? And that way there's not hiccups in this process. Maybe, that can save us getting, somebody who, decommitting because something in there was off to what they were promised. So I think that's also a huge takeaway that I had from his conversation today. But
he's got everything covered. I mean, he dots all his I's and crosses all of his T's whenever he opens his mouth. And
yep.
Man, I wish I could do that. It would have saved me a lot of headaches in my life if I could have thought about what I said before I opened my big mouth.
There.
All right, folks. Big night, big week. And as we have discussed, also 1 week away from National Signing Day, and Nebraska pretty much has its class for 2024 pretty well solidified. So no big surprises there, Greg?
Adding, well, yeah, nobody leaving, but adding, yes. It would seem like. So, yeah, no, I mean, next Wednesday, I think every single reporter in the state of Nebraska is chomping at the bit to get there next Wednesday to hear what Coach Rule has to say when he can actually talk about these guys that are in this class that are signed, sealed, and delivered. So, I mean, everything we're talking about right now is all speculation because nobody's signed anything. But, you have 8 days. And then those faxes will start coming in next Wednesday morning, bright and early. And no, I mean, right now, I have not seen the Nebraska fan base so energized at this time of the year in such a long time. To be like in the forefront of national college football news the way they are right now is unprecedented, really.
Yep. It's
in the modern recruiting era, So, yeah, no, it feels like a really special time. And yeah, I mean, Mark, you bring up that recruiting list there, and that's a guy that we mentioned a little bit earlier that's in the class is Daniel Kalen, who was key to get Carter Nelson to get on board right there, the number one guy on that list. I mean, the relationships that Daniel Kalen made with a lot of these guys were really, really key to getting them to commit. So, that's kind of the weird thing is that now, like we kind of mentioned at the top of the show, is that you probably had one of the worst quarterback rooms in the country, and now you're adding – basically, if it all happens, you add 2 5-star guys and a 4-star guy into your room to go on top of a Chubba Purdy and a Heinrich Harburg. So you really got to like the way things have kind of switched here in the last couple of days of Nebraska's outlook on the offensive side of the ball for next season.
Yep. And then, some of the fans were also mentioning, like, let's rock with Kalen. He's a Nebraska kid and he's been here the whole time. I'm sorry, but like to go over the hump, people complain about, our talent not being able to land big fish. We can't get disgruntled because RAIOLA committed to Georgia and then wants to come back and be like, no, let's keep Kalen. We're not going to get over the hump unless we start getting these big 5 stars and stuff like that. We got to compete with, you know, in the Big Ten of all conferences, you have to get guys like that. Quite, you know, it's pretty simple.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, you got to cover all your bases. I mean, when you know, RAIOLA decided to go to Georgia and went back to your next best option and got him away from Missouri. And,
Yep.
You know, definitely a kid that's not going to back away from competition.
Exactly.
I know him very well. You know, I've known him for years already now, and you know, it was always his dream to play at Nebraska. So, yeah, I just kind of hate the situation he's kind of been put into now after the last couple of days. But
Exactly.
you know what? He's still on the commit list. He still has a scholarship offer honored, and I would expect him to show up just like everybody else does here on January 8th or whenever it is when they report. So
yep. And I do see a comment there. The one thing I don't like about the portal and the NIL is it made business more cutthroat than ever. And I think there's a lot to that, you know, with the network TV deals and all that money going around. You know, I think it's hard to judge a kid who decommits and commits to another school, because I mean, if somebody paid most people here twice the salary to go to a different job, they would probably do it. So if Nebraska is able to offer him significantly more money than he would have gotten there, it you know, you can't fault the kid. And it's just one of those things. It's like, it's unprecedented times with the transfer portal. This is a new day and age of college football. To say anything is, you know, outside of the norm, we can't say that. We're still figuring out what the norm is in this NIL, you know, world and transfer portal world we're in.
And well, I mean, to even expand on that, you've seen the legislation that they kind of trying to push colleges to be in charge of the NIL.
Yeah.
Instead of these outside entities. So right now, the colleges kind of, their hands are tied.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, because you're depending on outside sources, boosters, that are going to pony up that money. And I mean, obviously, we've said since the get-go when NIL started that Nebraska was in really good shape for that. And you haven't really seen them go all out until now they're pressed into it. When you get into a situation like they are in right now. So, I mean, it's a different day and age right now. And I mean, when there's no rules, basically, with NIL right now, all bets are off, you know, until there's some kind of control over this, where colleges can basically be the ones that are going to divvy out the money and decide how it goes out. Because you know, you can be a program like Nebraska and see them dumping $450 million into projects here year in and year out, and actually have no control over paying those players that you know, are going to come and represent you. So yeah, there's problems in the system big time. I think everybody can agree to that.
Yep, absolutely. I think they'll find a middle ground eventually, but
salary cap.
yeah, right.
Justin, to your earlier point, most of us want this to be different or to be what it was years ago at an earlier time. But if you don't play the game, you can't win the game. If you're not going to play by the current rules now, and what Danny Kaelin did is exceptional, that he's been loyal, that he's been true to his commitment. That's to be commended. That's awesome. But Dylan RAIOLA, with his level of talent, and there's still going to be a quarterback competition, and there are incidents all over the country where 3- and 4-star quarterbacks are playing over 5-star quarterbacks. So it is still going to be a competition, I believe, if it's allowed to be. However, what RAIOLA is doing cannot be looked down on, or you can't penalize him in any such way, whether it be through social media, or certainly Nebraska can't.
Exactly.
he is exercising his options, and he's changed his mind a few times, but
he's a kid.
He's a kid.
And they're throwing
Absolutely.
money left and right at him.
He's a kid, number one. And number two, even if there are a bunch of 40-year-olds doing this right now, they'd be changing their minds and flipping all over the place to whatever the next best offer is.
Yep.
So exactly.
And this is the rest of his life decision.
And with a guy like Dylan too, I mean, obviously he's had family pressure to come to Nebraska his whole life too.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of changes things for him. But in comparison, you know, you got another guy like that was in his position last year in Arch Manning that went to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's getting in the transfer portal because he's not going to get a chance to start next year. So this is always, I mean, it's just a cycle that won't stop.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, we do appreciate everyone showing up tonight. Thank you so much for being here. We do this every Tuesday night, folks. I know that we wandered around from day to night and Thursdays and Thursday nights and Thursday afternoons and all that other business. You can blame me, but we are rock solid here on Tuesday, 6 Central, 7 Eastern. So please get on back here next week. This is just the first chapter of this. This is just, you know, the outset of the transfer portal, of course, just opened last Monday. And I don't know that the news is going to get any bigger than it was tonight, but still, this is an ongoing process, and we're going to take you through the off season here step by step. And of course, 1 week from tonight, we'll be on the eve of National Signing Day, and we will put Greg on the spot to give us a profile on all these players.
Yep.
I can do it.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Anything we missed? Anything else you guys would like to hit on?
No, I just say stay tuned though on the channel. You know, once the commitments happen, probably putting out a video a little bit more in depth about, you know, Kyle McCord, RAIOLA, whoever we end up getting. So just stay tuned for that. Potentially an emergency live stream.
What kind of video?
Let's call it a live stream, like breaking news. We don't want to call it an emergency.
Emergency.
That might like startle some people.
Be like a Dave Portnoy emergency press conference.
We'll tune into Husker Online. We'll have plenty of coverage on.
Absolutely. Greg does a great job there. Husker Online. It's right here on YouTube. It's obviously at the site there on 3huskeronline.com. Catch Justin's work right here at the Voice of College Football on the Nebraska channel. Also on his channel, Cheesy Corn Sports. If you love fantasy NFL, that's a great place to be. Justin, what's the latest there?
Fantasy football playoffs are next week. So it's more important than ever to get your lineups locked and loaded, ready and set, and injuries are going crazy. So, yep, tune in 2 hours for the game. We will be answering all-star sit questions, and on Fridays we do Friday Night Lights, where we just talk a little NFL, big stories, go into a little fantasy, and then play some immaculate grid. So it's a good time.
Who? What?
It's a game where you have to guess. They'll put like multiple things in a grid, and it's like Chargers, Browns, and you have to guess the rarity of a player that played for both of those teams. So you have to try to find the most rare answer and fill the board, but you only have 9 guesses to answer 9 blocks. It's pretty hard stuff. It's pretty hard.
Mind boggler.
Very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Justin, you wouldn't have run across too many people in your life that was as consumed with the NFL as I was for most of my life, but I'm pretty much checked out now, and I have never played. I have to remind myself. I can't believe this, because shoot, if you would have caught me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, like on a Sunday, like it pissed me off if somebody wanted to go to lunch, if some kind of family event pulled me away for 3 minutes from an NFL game. Like 1 o'clock Eastern time. Absolutely. Nonstop all day, you know, just like you guys, I'm sure, are now, but it usually these days hits me at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh yeah, it's a Sunday. There's NFL games on. I'll flip them on. Like I've almost completely tuned out. I don't even know who's any good this year.
Yeah.
No.
And the
15 to 16 hours of football every Sunday is my religion.
yeah, I mean, college football is my number one. But as a Texans fan, and as bad as the Texans have been, fantasy football was my only option to be happy and win because the Texans weren't doing it. So, you know, I had to pull out a coping mechanism, and it became fantasy football, and I just nerded out over it. So,
A lot longer after I did.
yeah,
But no, I mean, I was born here in this state, and I'm a Chicago Bears fan before I'm a Nebraska football fan. So
Wow.
I'm the opposite. I was born into Husker football.
I'm not supposed to, technically not supposed to be a fan because I work in the media, though. So I'm a bigger Nebraska basketball fan than I am football fan. Let's put it that way.
Why?
Because I grew up going to Nebraska basketball games with my dad, and you know, always had to root for the loser all the time.
So this season's a great surprise then.
No, it's pleasant so
Yeah.
far. After Sunday night, it's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, when people comment to me about how much I know about college football, I let them know you have no idea. I know more about NFL history than I even college football history. And LFG, by the way, let's see, tonight there is a Biggest 12 show that's going on the main channel right now. You've got an 8 o'clock Michigan live show, and you got a 10:15 Oregon show. So you got those 3 other live streams to catch up with on the Voice of College Football. But LFG, I appreciate you asking.
Yep.
All right, folks. For Greg, for Justin, making on back here next Tuesday, and we will see you then for more Huskers live, and probably, I'm guessing, another 3 or 4 5-star commits. How about that?
Let's
we'll
hope.
See you then.
Probably some big news to talk about, I'm guessing.